Nothing is more exciting than getting brand new equipment. However, not knowing exactly how to set it up is pretty frustrating. So I figured to make a video on how to set up the GoXLR from start to finish. So literally plugging it in and where it needs to go, and then actually setting up all the software, where to get the software, and what everything inside the software does. So if you want help setting it up, let's do this. What's going on? My name is IamBPala or Brandon, and I'm here to show you how to set up the GoXLR. I've had this thing for about 3 years now, and I've been using it every single day since for my streaming and more than that. Now keep in mind in this video, I'm going to explain how to set this up for a single PC setup. I did do a in-depth dual PC setup review or tutorial or guide. That's going to be linked up here somewhere in the description, or also in the description, but also on the screen somewhere around here. And yeah, so if you have a dual PC setup, I recommend watching that. If you have a single PC, stay right where you are, and let's get to it. The first things first, this bad boy is chunky. So we wanna make sure that we find a spot on the desk for this. So click on a nice little spot, so that way A, you can see it pretty easily, and B, you can also get to the buttons pretty quickly. Now, once we actually have that set up, we're gonna go ahead and wanna plug in our power cable. So just plug in the power end to the actual GoXLR into the nearest outlet that you have. And then after that, we're gonna go ahead and plug in the USB into the computer. Keep in mind, this does not have to be a USB 3.0. It only works on 2.0 or only works with 2.0 technology, but it doesn't have to be USB 3.0. Then next up, we're gonna go ahead and plug in our microphone. All you have to do is just plug in the XLR cable into the XLR input on the back. Keep in mind, if you are using a USB microphone, some of them do support this. You just have to make sure it has a headphone out for listening or lossless listening. And then you can plug it into the microphone input on the back of the actual GoXLR. Now, lastly, what you're gonna wanna do is plug in your headphone to the GoXLR. Keep in mind, if you are using wireless ones, you're gonna have to make sure that there is a auxiliary input on the dongle for the wireless headset. This should actually have an auxiliary cable going from the GoXLR's headphone jack to that auxiliary input. Now, a cool little hack that I did is I actually use a headphone splitter, so that way I can have my in-ear monitors, my wireless headphone, and my speakers plugged in at the same time, depending on which I feel like using. So now we have all the physical pieces of this actually set up. Let's go ahead and jump over to the stream setup so we can go ahead and set up the software for this.
What's going on, everyone? We are currently at our stream setup, and we're about to set up the GoXLR. Now, during this process, I'm going to try and go through every little bit of the TC Helicon GoXLR that I can, just to make this as easy as possible. If you guys have questions, please leave them in the comments below. If I missed anything, I tried really hard to script everything out perfectly, but let's get into the video. All right, so first thing we have to do is we actually have to go to the TC Helicon website, and we have to download the software for the GoXLR. Click here. All right, and then right at the top of this, you want to go ahead and go to downloads, and then it should be right here. I don't know why it looks like this. Honestly, I feel like they could have made it way easier, but it should be the top one right over here to the right. Just click that and you should be able to download and install it. Now let's go ahead and pull up the GoXLR app, and then we'll go ahead and set up our microphone. Now that we have it downloaded, well, we should only have one profile over here, and we're going to go through the mic setup. It should prompt you to do this, but if it doesn't, then go ahead and click on the mic tab and then go to mic setup. Once you get into the GoXLR software, it should prompt you to actually set up your microphone. If it does not, just head over to this mic tab and then click on mic setup. Now with this portion of the video, keep in mind, it's all going to depend on what your microphone is. There's a couple different types. You're going to be able to have dynamic, condenser mic, and then 3.5. I'm using the Shure SM7B, which is a dynamic microphone, which means it does not need that 48 volts of phantom power. Just make sure you actually look up and see if you have a condenser mic that requires it or not. Also, another side note is that if you have a cloud lifter or any kind of gain booster, you will need to use the condenser, even though this is a dynamic mic. Whenever I'm using this, I try and make sure that it gets up to like that good portion of getting kind of loud. Also, I have another way to kind of test this and make sure that it sounds good, but this is just a basic kind of setting that you want to try and mess with a little bit. As you see, it's showing up low, but once you see it in OBS, it'll show up fine. But do a couple tests with this, and then I'll show you how to really test it through OBS. Whenever you're trying to find the right gain setting, personally, I like to try and use OBS to show me where this is actually landing. I try and make sure that my microphone is landing anywhere between the high green and mid yellow portion. What you want to do is you want to make sure that your mic does not peak whenever you're talking. So especially if you're getting loud and stuff like that too, just make sure it's not peaking or too sensitive whenever you're speaking into it. This I feel like is a good tone. I can also see right here that it is landing in that 20 to negative 20 or negative 15 decibel area as well. Also, another thing to note is that while we're already in OBS, why don't we go ahead and just add this source? It is one source that needs to be added. So make sure you go to click on mic/aux and then go to properties, and then make sure it's clicked on broadcast stream mix. This is going to be where all your audio is coming out of and everything is sub mixed into one mix. We're going to go through that a little bit later in the video, but just add this while we're here. It makes life a little bit easier so you see that everything is working. Plus, again, I like to use this as a good guideline when it comes to setting my audio levels. Again, I'll discuss that a little bit later in the video. All right, so the next step, let's go ahead and go through a couple of the other options as far as the gates and equalizers. Now, keep in mind, this is going to be different for everyone as far as their voice sounds, the way that your microphone sounds. Everything has a different kind of tone and feel to it. So make sure that you're kind of just playing around with this, or if you want to learn more about it, do some more research on what each one of these do. And then that way you can kind of fine tune it to what you want your voice to sound like. I'm just going to go ahead and give you my settings as a baseline based on my voice. If you like it, great. If not, again, you can learn how to fine tune it from there. So first we have here is going to be the gate. So this is going to be basically what turns your mic off whenever there's not enough loud enough sound that's actually activating the mic. And then you don't have some weird buzzing or humming or anything like that in the background. Or if you do have loud noise in the background, this helps cut that out because there's a gate threshold, if you would, for audio. For this, I have it set to negative 53 dB. It does good enough to block out the AC that's in my room. That is probably the loudest thing that's in my room right now. Attenuation's 100, attack is 10 milliseconds, and then the release is 200 milliseconds. Next up is the equalizer. Again, this is going to be fine-tuned to your voice. This is what I personally use after all this time finding. I like to kind of boost the lows and then also kind of cut out some of that mid stuff, because for me, I feel like my voice gets nasally and stuff like that. It still could be a little bit better, but it's a little bit nasally, so I do that. And then I like to brighten up the highs just a little bit, and then I leave that 16 kilohertz at just flat. Now, again, I can't tell you exactly what each one of these do. You can try and mess around with it by basically just bringing it up and down and then seeing what it does and changes to your voice. And then you can go from there, or just look up a video tutorial on how to use these and what they actually do for your voice. Another thing you can do, because sometimes it's hard to fine tune it with it in your ears, is you can actually just use OBS to record a video, and then you can go back and listen to that video. That way you have a better understanding of what your voice sounds like to your viewers. But these are basically my settings. A lot of the lows are set to 3 for that boost and that kind of like bassy broadcasty presence. Then that -2 for that mid, which is kind of like nasally and stuff like that for me. And then I got 3 and 4 for 4 and 8 kilohertz, and then 0. Now, next up is going to be the compressor. I believe this is actually just set to default to 45, but this is what it looks like when it's expanded, just in case. Basically, what the compressor is going to take your wavelength and kind of squish it down, so that way everything is kind of a similar loudness. That way, if I'm screaming really loud in the microphone, it doesn't get too overly loud. Or if I'm going to sit here and I just whisper into it, it still sounds fairly loud, so your viewers can hear you without having to listen really, really close. It also kind of helps from like weird, like, you know, audio things. So that way you're not like blowing out your viewers' ears. So if you're like kind of whispering and all of a sudden, get really loud, it doesn't actually hurt their ears. So be kind. De-esser basically just helps get rid of the s sounds on your vocals whenever you're speaking. So if you have a lot of like, you know, bass, there's that S sound at the end. This is what kind of helps get rid of it. I put it at 25. I think it sounds pretty good. That is basically what my voice sounds like. And that is my setup for my basically equalizer, if you would. All right, so now that our mic is set up properly, let's go ahead and go over the sliders. I feel like that's the next most important piece as far as this goes. Let's talk about the sliders, why I have it set the way that I do, and how to set them yourself. So head over to the mixer tab, and this is where we can actually adjust the sliders. So for the first slider I have it set to mic. So I actually have my mic mixer setting basically to where it has a volume that kind of bounces up and down. So anytime there is any kind of volume that comes out of any of my sources, it shows me on my actual GoXLR. This is nice because I don't know about you, but I've had times where I go to mute my microphone and I don't realize I muted my microphone. Now, if I know that there's no audio levels coming out of that, I can literally see it on my GoXLR, which is a really awesome feature. So personally, I have my mic as 1. Not that I ever really need to adjust it aside from muting it from time to time, like so. So that way, if I need to mute it on the go too, I can also just mute it really quickly. And then that way you don't hear anything in the background. Now, next up I have is going to be the music tab. I basically put any music and also browser sources out of this, just because with music, again, it kind of fluctuates the way that it sounds. Some videos are louder than others. So I like having the ability to kind of just adjust that on the fly. Again, if there's something that's copyright that comes up and I want to go and mute it, I can just go ahead and mute it with the press of a button. Now it's muted. And the third one I have is going to be my socials. So any kind of like Discord or any other kind of like voice app that would actually have on my computer, I have it all routed right through this one right here. This is great because if someone is super loud, then you can go ahead and turn them down. If someone is not loud enough, you can turn them up. Or if your Discord is actually overpowering your stream or your voice on stream, which again, the loudest thing on your stream should be your voice, you can go ahead and adjust that on the fly. Or again, if your friend starts talking about some inappropriate, some sussy stuff, you can go ahead and just mute them super quick and then get out of the Discord call, and then you're safe. I don't know about you guys, I trust the people I play with, but sometimes it's good to have that safety measure in place just in case. And then lastly, this is actually gonna be my system volume. So this is basically everything. So video games, all that other stuff, anything that I don't have assigned to those 3 parts right there, are now assigned to this, and then I adjust it. What's really cool about this is if you go to start up a video game, because we all know for some reason the devs like to put it at like 1,000,000,000% for the sound, and then your ears start bleeding and your viewer ears start bleeding. It's just a bad time for everyone. So that way you can just easily adjust it as you see on screen. So that way, if you're starting up a new video game for the first time, you know to maybe just bring that down a bit. So that way you don't hurt your ears. Now, keep in mind, you can flex this to whatever you guys want. You don't have to have it set up the way that I do, but you can change it to different sources on here if you'd like. Now, to get that bouncing effect, that way you can see when audio is actually coming out of those lines, you can actually just head right over to lighting. And then I have it set to styles. I have gradient and I have meter on. I believe meter is actually going to be that option to where it will either allow it to bounce up and down when there's audio coming out of it or not. Again, I find this to be a really helpful tool because it shows me all my audio levels right on my actual GoXLR. And if I don't hear anything coming out of that chain, I know that something is wrong. Or if I don't see anything coming out of that chain, I know something's wrong. So now you're probably wondering, well, BPala, how do I actually assign everything to those different lanes of audio? Glad you guys asked. I'm going to go ahead and show you. What you have to first do is go down to your start and then go to your settings. Once you jump into settings, you actually want to go to system and then go to sound. And then in here, so number one, your output device, you always want it to be system GoXLR. And then your input device, you always want it to be chat GoXLR. Now, the reason why is because that means when your computer turns off and on, it should keep these settings the way that they are. If they don't, you have to go back in there and change it. The reason why I note that is because this happens all the time. It's not a GoXLR thing. It is a Windows thing. For some crazy reason, it likes to change your audio settings. If that happens, this is where you do it. But above and beyond that, you can actually go to what at the bottom here, which is advanced sound options. Now, when you click this, you actually have the ability to, when you have, let's say if we're actually playing music in the background, now it shows up. Now, if you notice, right underneath default output for Chrome, it has it set to music. Now, if you notice, there is the system, there's a sampler, there's the chat. There's now a ton of different audio lanes created by the GoXLR. You want to make sure that you click on the appropriate one. I personally use music or anything, again, that is audio related as far as like, Spotify, Google Chrome, that kind of stuff. If you guys use other browsers or if you use different audio things like Pretzel Rock and stuff like that, you can just change that right here. Now, again, keep in mind, just as like a kind of future reference, you might sometimes have them unsync for some reason where they're not in the proper spot. You can just basically click into there and then click out and then click them back in. Weird audio things, but still, this is how you change it. Hopefully that made sense. So if you just talked about audio, let's go ahead and jump over to the routing table so I can explain to you how that actually works. If you jump over to the routing table, this basically is saying that any of these inputs will show up to these outputs. So that means my chat will show up in my headphones. Let's say if I wanted to mute my chat, I could mute my chat and now I don't hear it in my headphones. Let's say if I wanted to mute my chat line of audio from my broadcast stream mix, so that way people don't hear Discord, I can click this and now my stream technically wouldn't hear Discord. So what's really cool about this is that you set it once and you can basically just leave it. Now there should be ways, I think, with the Stream Deck that you can actually change some of these inputs to where you can actually click off of it and make sure that people don't hear it. Or actually another funny thing that I've seen is that you want to be able to catch other people's audio on your sampler so you can record that on the fly. I'll show you later. You can click this and then whatever your friends are saying are now also being captured by the sampler, which is actually, I've seen some funny clips about this, but another cool little thing. But basically, this is how I have it set up. Maybe just go ahead and take a picture of it or check out how it is. And then basically, once you set it once, you just forget it. Set it and forget it. That's what we like to hear. So with all that done, you're actually ready to stream technically. That's right. You could stop this video, but first you have to like it because I swear if you click off this without liking it, you're going to have some audio issues when you start streaming. But technically you can start actually streaming right now. However, I do want to go over these fun little things right here. So this chapter will just be like the fun things, I guess, or fun settings. So in case you want to learn a little bit more about it, but let's take a look at some of the fun features this thing has because it actually has quite a bit of them. All right, so if you go over to the effects tab over here, you actually have the ability to add different kind of things to your voice. So if you want to, you can make it have it sound like you have a megaphone going on right now, or you could go ahead and cartoon and sing like T-Pain. So it's kind of fun because it lets you add some like character and some different things to your stream. You can also have scenes or maybe even like have people redeem something to where you sing in a certain voice or talk in a certain voice. or if you just want to mess with your randoms in Apex because they're driving you nuts because they're bald wraith and they just kept on running into every single fight and just W-keying everything, you can mess with them with this. Now you can change these. What's really cool about these is that they actually don't all have the same like effect. So for instance, what I mean by that is that with reverb, there's different styles of reverb. There's different styles of echo, just like there is pitch and also gender and megaphone and everything else. So it's really neat with the customizations you can actually get out of it. You can also even choose to hard tune certain things like game, volume, line, everything. So you can kind of choose also. I've never even messed with these, to be completely honest. Don't you don't have to mess with these. Basically what I'm trying to show you is that there is a limitless amount of things you can change about this, which makes it really awesome and really cool. And you can make it very unique, right? A lot of people probably say that the GoXLR isn't very unique because it's, you know, everyone has it, whatever, but you can actually make it pretty unique with these. Now, I don't know if I've mentioned it up to this point, but when you are doing this stuff, for the love of everything that is good, make sure you go over to profile up here and then you click this save button, because if you don't save it, it is going to get messed up. Anytime you turn the computer off and back on, you will lose some of these settings. You will lose some of these adjustments you've made. So make sure you save it. This is your first warning of many. Save the profile. All right, back into the fun stuff. Now, what's also cool is that you have 6 different voice effects you can have on the fly, also not including the fact you have hard tune robot and megaphone on there as well too. You also have 4 different knobs you can change. You have your reverb, pitch, echo, and gender. All those change different things about your voice. So if you wanted to, I can go ahead and add a little bit of reverb in case I wanted to be able to have like more singing and stuff like that. Or I can change it to a music club, a chapel, hockey arena, but you can change some of those on the fly, and then some of those you have to go in the software. Again, second warning, make sure you save your profiles when you do that. And on to the next one is going to be your sampler. This one is actually probably my most favorite feature, or one of them, because it's actually really fun to mess with. So when we're in our sampler over here, you have 3 different pages, and then you have 4 different buttons to do those samplers. Now with these samplers, you can actually add these recordings from your computer. So if you want to, you can actually just take a previously recorded audio. So let's take a second and do that. All right, so now we have our folder of sounds that are open. Let's go ahead and drag and drop one of these on there and add it to our soundboard. We're gonna take the bruh, drop it in the sampler, and then there you go. Now you can go ahead and do bruh, and you have it automatically queued up. So another really cool thing about this sampler is that if you just press and hold the button, so I'm gonna press and hold it, and I say, please make sure to subscribe and like this video. Please make sure to subscribe and like this video. Please make sure to subscribe and like this video. Please make sure to subscribe and like this video. Totally not just subliminally trying to tell you to do something, but you can actually record these things on the fly. And if you really want to, you can clear it out. So if you want to, just hit the clear button and then hit what button you want. And then bam, it is done, cleared and over. But it's really fun because again, you can also capture other audio. So if you want to capture your desktop audio, it's a great and easy way to go ahead and record audio if you want to, or if you want to capture what your friend is saying. I've seen people on TikTok and stuff basically debate people to say something and then they recorded it. So another really fun way to use this feature. And again, I really like it. I think it's probably one of the most fun ones that I have and something I probably use every single stream. Now, lastly, for fun settings, we're going to talk about the cough button and also the bleep button. These are 2 buttons that honestly, if they're used in the right way, they can actually be probably a really awesome asset of the GoXLR. A lot of times if I'm on stream and I'm playing with randoms and I'm like, hey, how's your day doing or something like that, or I just use that, it's a great way to kind of spice up the comedy and kind of add that on. You actually just have these buttons where they're going to be just a quick little press. So with the swear button, you just hear a beep. Sorry for that loud noise, but really awesome. Now with the cough button, there's a couple of different things you can do. So you can actually change it to mute a certain line if you want to by holding it. So you can have it mute all of it. You can have it mute just your chat mic, your stream, or phones. Or you can also have it just as a toggle. Personally, since again, my microphone I have on my sliders, I can just hit that mute button. I just use it as a cough button. So in case I need to, I can quickly press it and you don't hear the sneeze. Let me know in the comment section. Do you think that was believable or not, that sneeze? Or was it fake or was it not? Who knows? Never going to know now because I muted it with the cough button. It's actually really awesome too to have, because if you are podcasting or recording something for later use, it's great to be able to get rid of like sniffles or sneezes or things like that in case you're feeling under the weather or in case you have allergies. And it's also great because if you actually have to cough or anything, you can quickly, and that way it's not actually impacting the audio that you're recording. Now, another little thing that I personally like to do as you're trying to balance out all your audio levels and figure out where's a good position for your sliders is I actually use OBS to do that. The reason being is that your voice should never be overpowered by anything else. So if you're sitting here and you're noticing where your voice is landing when you're speaking normally, as you would on stream, and you play something else such as like music. Now, we notice that it's not actually going above where my voice is actually going. But if I did bump it up, now this is probably a problem, I'm not going to keep it here long. But if that audio did jump up above my voice, that's a problem, and you want to make sure you turn that down. And again, you can adjust this with the sliders or the individual program itself. So personally, I actually keep my Epidemic Sounds volume at like halfway, and I just adjust it from there. Otherwise, full blast is just way too loud at all levels, period. So that's how I usually do it, is I adjust it in the actual app itself, and then I also like to adjust it on my actual slider. So again, I keep it probably at half on my browser. I also keep it about like lower, a little bit lower than half on my actual GoXLR. This is a great way to make sure that your audio is balanced perfectly and that your stream can hear you properly, and that your voice is the main focus of the stream, as it should be. And that's it. Everything is set up. All your fun stuff is set up. You know how to use it and customize it. We are on a roll, unless you didn't save it. So make sure, again, this is your third reminder that if you didn't save your profile by now and all this work that we just did together, you should probably save it now before you close out and have to do it again. I guess that'll actually increase my watch time. So you know what? Never mind. Don't do that. And then watch this video again and 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 again. All right, that is the end of the demo portion of this video. So let's go ahead over to the head-on talking portion, and let's go ahead and close this video out.
All right, now that we are done with the demo, you should have saved it. Did you save it? This is probably your fourth reminder now to save your profile. Did you save it? Please tell me you saved it. Hopefully this video helped you out and you found it useful. If you guys did, make sure you give this a thumbs up. I worked really hard on it, and the editor edited a lot of video to do this, so please do it. I appreciate it. If you like the content that you saw and you want to get more of that, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I talk about vlogs, tutorials, how-to, streaming tips, the whole 9 yards. I really appreciate the support. Thank you guys so much for that. And if you guys want to talk to me live, I am live on Twitch multiple times a week, so please feel free to stop by. Appreciate you, and as always, have an amazing stream. See you in the next one.